Hello and welcome. Thank you for listening. My name is Sarah Baumert. I'm a yoga teacher, Feldenkrais practitioner, and host of the Sarah B. Yoga podcast. The Sarah B. Yoga podcast and my practice, Body Matter, is an interdisciplinary learning space where we explore the many ways that movement can help facilitate body acceptance and awareness, reduce pain and stress, regulate the nervous system, and build strength and ease. My teaching plays with the synthesis of Feldenkrais awareness through movement lessons, traditional yoga asana, creative imagery, breathing exercises, self-massage, and a compassionate mindset to help you feel a greater sense of ease and comfort in yourself. Sarah B. Yoga and Body Matter have a lot of other program offerings. These podcasts are just a taste of my teaching. Each week I teach a range of online classes, including a gentle yoga class, a level 2 class for more advanced students, and Feldenkrais classes with monthly themes, anatomy lessons, and Q&A sessions for more in-depth study. I have 2 new online series offerings for the fall. A Feldenkrais series titled Coming to Your Senses, an exploration of the spaces of the eyes, the mouth, jaw, ears, vocal and breathing apparatus. And my second course, Wakeful Body, the blending of yoga and Feldenkrais on Monday nights. As one student recently described Monday nights, that felt like I just gave myself a massage. So these fall classes will be a continuation of some fan favorite stretching sequences that incorporate bolsters and other props to enhance the poses. There is still plenty of time to join these courses live or via the course recordings. You can find more information about these offerings in the show notes. Okay, on to today's episode. Thank you so much for listening. Hello, and welcome to the Sarah B. Yoga podcast. This podcast is an intersection of my yoga teaching and my training in the Feldenkrais method. Today's class is Neck Care Part 3, Mobility. Part 1 was Awareness, Part 2, Strength, and now we will take a more in-depth look at stretching the neck safely. It's important not to view the neck as something that we tug and pull at and just stretch forevermore. This is why I'm taking a more comprehensive look at the many ways that we can approach neck care. So if you are trying all of the classes in this series, you can take note of which approach you are finding most helpful and supportive for you, and then return to those episodes. To access all the neck care resources, you can, of course, check out the previous podcast episodes on neck care. I also have a free video class that works with some of these similar concepts, and links for all of those classes and resources can be found in the show notes. And for a deeper study of this topic, you can check out my Freeing the Neck and Shoulders series and Unraveling Body Anxiety series, both of which are Feldenkrais focused. And for my schedule of live stream classes on Zoom and my self-paced yoga and Feldenkrais courses that include video, check the links in the show notes or visit body-matter.com. For today's class, you will need 1 to 2 yoga blankets. You could also use larger bath towels or any other firm blanket. Okay, let's start with class. So to begin, we will be lying on the right side. And if you could gather your blanket or towel, fold the blanket so that you can use it as a prop for underneath the head, so that when you come down to lie on your right side, it doesn't feel like the head is having to drop to the floor. So you don't want this prop to be too thick or too thin. Eventually, you might actually move that prop away, but to begin with, what we're looking for, and you can start to play with this right now, is lying on your right side with your knees bent. Maybe you sleep like this on your side, so you might be familiar with this, but we want to make sure that the spine is in an alignment, a long alignment, so that you're not rounding your upper back and bringing your head, your chin towards your chest, or your forehead towards your knees. So get a sense as you come to lie on your right side that the head is in line with the rest of the spine. The right ear in line with the right shoulder, in line with the right side ribs. So we don't need to be too detailed about this, but because this is a class for the neck, we certainly want to give it some thought. And so you can get comfortable here. Bring your right arm so it's just kind of reaching straight out in front of you, and your left hand can be anywhere, maybe on the floor in front of you. And just begin to let your head sink into the blanket. This might be a great moment to also bring attention to your breathing. Notice sensations in your face, your jaw. And after giving that a few moments of just feeling the weight of your head dropping into the blanket, it's a nice moment to just reassess. Do you like this height of your blanket? There shouldn't be any folds or creases. It should just feel like you can kind of drop into it. So from here, we'll put a little bit of pressure with the side of the head into the blanket. And so you could think almost like you're trying to close off that right ear a little bit, pushing into the blanket and then easing off. And we'll do that a few times. Pressing the right side of the head, right ear, into the blanket, and then easing off. And you get to play with how much force, for how long of a time you're putting that pressure down. But then certainly let go of it, and that let going can tell you something. Good. So gently let that rest. You're still on your right side. And bring your left arm so that it's just alongside your body on the left side. And start to let your left hand come back behind you. Maybe the left hand brushes across the back of the pelvis. And then eventually see if your left fingertips can touch the floor behind you. You're staying on your side though, so you're not rolling onto your back. If you can place the fingertips on the floor behind you, great. Some of you may find that in this scenario, your shoulder doesn't like this, and so you could play with finding a prop, a block, or another blanket, and lifting the floor up behind you so that your left shoulder feels safe here. So the left hand's behind you. We're not really stretching so much yet. But begin to then see if you can walk your left hand a little bit farther away from you, towards the wall behind you, or away from the back of your pelvis. And we're starting to find some scenario in which you can start to elicit a stretch sensation from the top of your left shoulder through to the collarbone, the left side of the throat and neck, even up to the left jaw. And so as we stay here for a bit, you can play with that left arm, how far away from you it is. Maybe the elbow can become more straight, or maybe you need to bend the elbow a little bit more. and how much of an active reach that left arm is doing. And staying there a bit longer with that left arm. And see what happens if you then press the right side of the head into the blanket again. Press a little bit and then back off. And you can feel if that seems appropriate, that may elicit more of a stretch. You may simply just want to stay with the weight of the head dropping. And if you feel like you need even more sense of length through that left side, the next option would be to just move the blanket that's underneath your head. So now the head has a farther distance to drop towards the floor, and your left arm is still active, reaching behind you. And remember, you're not rolling onto your back. You're still on your right side. And we're just taking time to shift a little bit here. Perhaps reposition the left arm. You can even begin to very gently roll the head a little bit, rolling so that the nose turns towards the floor, and then rolling the head a little bit so that you can see more towards the ceiling. And this is very gentle, very slow. And noticing how or when it clarifies the stretch for you on the left side of the neck. This is going to be unique for everyone. Making sure it's comfortable enough that you can breathe. And making sure that the sensation is informative rather than overwhelming. Good. Take a nice long exhalation. And then when you're ready, start to roll onto your back so that your knees are bent, your feet are standing, you're in a more symmetric shape. The arms can be down alongside the body. And just pause here in this more symmetric place. Sense the weight of your head. Feel the two sides of the neck. And notice what kind of sensation the stretching creates. It's not always more comfortable when we stretch. Okay, so now please roll to your left side and prop up your head with the same amount of blanket that you began with. And make sure that you have this nice alignment of the spine so that the head is not forward of the rest of you. Your left ear is on the blanket. Your left arm can be out in front of you. And see if you can drape and drop the weight of your head into the support. Giving this a few moments. Noticing as you exhale the weight of your whole self, the weight of the head, and any kind of releasing that might be possible in the neck. And just seeing, can the head really drop into that support? The blanket might be firm, or maybe you have a more squishy material. And then we'll press down a little bit into the blanket with the left side of the head. So you could think like you're trying to press the ear a little bit into the blanket, like you want to close off your hearing on that side. And then you ease off and you let it go. And you'll repeat this many times, but not quickly. So you press the left side of the head into the blanket with an easy jaw, soft expression in the face. And then you ease off, feel the effort release, and even pause before you begin again. And so you'll continue this, and you can play a little bit with the timing, how long you press into the blanket, how firmly you press. And so here, as we're pressing, there is a little bit of toning that's happening. And if you take class with me regularly, you know that I like to be really active in poses. And I firmly believe that activating, toning is what often heals. It's not just a passive stretching or a tugging on the tissues that will heal the body. So again, you're pressing a little bit and then letting go a bit of that pressure. And feeling that when you push, you turn on some neck strength. And then when you back off, does it help you acquaint yourself with whatever muscle is turning on and off? And you can notice when you do this, are you recruiting other areas, possibly the jaw or the abdomen? Great. And then just let the head rest. Bring the right arm alongside the body and start to just slide that right hand back behind you. See if the fingertips can find the floor. And so your palm is facing more towards the floor. Remember, you're not rolling your torso. You're not bringing your upper back to the floor. It's just a movement more at the shoulder joint to take the arm behind you. And just go for a little walk with the right fingers, walking the right hand farther away from your pelvis towards the wall that's behind you. And start to play with where this arm can be to help you find a stretch from the top of the right shoulder up into the right side of the neck and throat. Experimenting with where this right arm is, how straight the elbow is, how much of an active reach you have through that arm. And then here, so we're just playing. You can feel what it's like to press the left side of the head into the blanket. And if that clarifies the stretch for you, and if you like that, you can stay there. You may feel like you need to lower the blanket. You may need to unfold the blanket or slide the blanket out from under the head all the way so that you can increase this distance between your right jaw all the way to your right shoulder. Because that's really what we're doing here. We're looking to create a little bit more sense of length in that whole swath of the right side. Playing with this for a few more breaths. And you could consider marking this class as something to come back to and see how you progress after doing the class a few times. And so with that right arm back behind you, now just roll your head a little bit so that the nose turns towards the floor and then the face turns a little bit more towards the ceiling. Just nice and slow. Noticing how that changes the stretch sensation. Good. And gently let that all release. Come back onto your back so that you come back to this more symmetric shape with the knees bent, the feet standing, and the arms can just be alongside the body or somewhere on the floor, wide enough that you can feel the upper back relax into the floor, the back of the head on the floor. And just sense the two sides of the neck. From here, could you roll to your side and come up to your hands and your knees? And if being on your hands is not okay for your wrists, bearing weight on your hands like this is not okay for your wrists, or if the wrist tension and forearm tension actually are related to your neck, then an option for you is to come down onto your forearm so that you're on your forearms and your knees, in which case your elbows will be right underneath your shoulders. So you're on all fours. That's either hands or forearms. And now begin to round your back into a cat's spine and stay there. So your tail curls down, your head drops, but see if you can let the dropping of the head be passive. So you can notice you could actively tuck your chin into your chest, feel what that's like, and then don't actively do that, but do let the head continue to drop. And with the head really hanging, it's like the very top of the head is trying to fall towards the floor. Your back is rounded, your shoulder blades are spread a bit. You're thinking of drawing the sternum deeper into the body away from the floor. And just letting that head hang, start to move the head a little bit to the right, as if your right ear could swing over towards your right shoulder, and then bring the head back to the middle where it's just hanging. And just do this a few times, just gently moving the head with control over to the right. So the right ear comes towards the right shoulder, and then the head comes back to that hanging position. And I like to think of this like a pendulum, but right now we're just doing one side of the pendulum, the right side. Awareness of your jaw, expression of your face. So you can have your mouth open as we do this. I suggest continuing to breathe in and out through the nose, but in order for the jaw to stay soft, you may just want to let the mouth be slightly open. Good. Come back through the middle. Take a breath in, come to neutral spine, and then exhale, round your back again, come back to that cat spine, let the head passively hang, and begin to move the left ear over towards the left shoulder, and then back to the middle. So the beginning point, the head is hanging straight down, and then you swing the head with control over to the left, like the left ear wants to meet the left shoulder, and then come back to the middle. And do this a few times to the left side. And as you're doing this, notice if there's anything else moving. Is it just your neck, or are you feeling any kind of movement through your ribs, or is your tail swinging a little bit? It's important that we connect the movement of the neck with the whole body so that anything from the base of the neck down could just be very quiet, and then we have all this mobility in the neck, and that's not going to feel so great. We want to make sure that when the head is moving, it's actually not just from the neck, but we can find support much farther down through our whole selves to be able to move our heavy head around. Okay, come back to the middle and just take a break back in child's pose for a moment. And then come back to hands and knees, or forearms and knees. Exhale, round your back into that cat spine. And now just swing your head slowly to the right and then to the left. And you can think about this more clearly as the pendulum. But you're not really using momentum. You are moving with control, and you can go as slow as you'd like. And as you move your head to the right ear towards the right shoulder, can you feel a little bit of a softening of your right side ribs? Like your right side ribs maybe come together a little bit. And then you swing through center, and as the left ear comes towards your left shoulder, maybe your left side ribs can come together just a little bit, even if it's just a hint of that. And so you could start to create an image of your spine and how the whole spine is moving and supporting this gentle swinging of the head. Good. Take a moment to rest back in child's pose again. Sense your breathing. Come back up to your hands and your knees. And exhale back into downward facing dog. And as you're in down dog, see if you can feel that the head is a continuation of the spine. So you're not letting your head hang down like we just were for that pendulum. Just taking a breath or two here. And slowly exhale, bring your knees back down. So you're back on hands and knees. Take a breath in and extend the spine into cow spine. So now you're looking forward, maybe a little bit up, your tail is lifted, and we will stay in this cow spine. As we're here, can you engage the shoulder blades down the back a little bit? You can even draw the shoulder blades towards the spine. So the arms and the upper back are quite active here, helping you to open across your chest. And now we'll do the same thing, but it's almost like the pendulum is upside down now, which of course with gravity wouldn't make sense, right? But in your cow spine, so you're gently looking up, just tilt your head a little bit to the right, towards the right ear, and come back to center. We'll just do this a few times. Tilt the head to the right so that you feel a bit of a stretch through the left side of the neck. Notice if the rest of your spine is starting to coordinate with you. Can you feel the right side ribs gathering together a little bit as the right ear moves towards the right shoulder? Good. Next time you come back through center, just begin to feel the left side. Let the left ear come towards the left shoulder, looking for that stretch through the right side of the neck, letting your mouth be open if that feels helpful. Softening your throat and allowing your left side ribs to gather together a little bit as your left ear comes towards the left shoulder. Maybe your tail is wagging a little bit as well. Good. Come back to the middle. Pause in child's pose for a moment. Inhale, come back up to your hands and your knees. Exhale. And inhale into your cow spine. Lift the head, lift the tail, arching the back, drawing the shoulder blades down the back, and stay here in your cow spine. Continue to breathe. And now just move the head to the right and to the left. So it's like you're making a big arc with the top of the head. And it's not fast. It's a slow action, and you can look for the stretch, and you might even pause where you feel that deep lengthening stretch. We're not coordinating the breath here, but you are breathing. Great. Gently let that release. And slowly lower yourself all the way onto your belly. So the legs are long. Bring your hands so they are stacked right underneath your forehead. And just pause here for a moment. As you're here, can you begin to lift your armpits away from the floor, like you're trying to create more depth, doming the two armpits away from the floor? Then keep your hands and your forehead connected and begin to lift your arms, lift your elbows, lift your palms away from the floor. This can be very small. The front of the neck needs to lengthen in order to do this. The back of the neck shortens, gets stronger. Feel your shoulder blades firm down the back. Again, this can be a very small amount of lift. Good. Exhale, lower that down. And now walk your arms out into Sphinx pose. So for Sphinx, our elbows are directly underneath the shoulders. For sure, make sure the elbows are not farther back behind your shoulders. If anything, your elbows are forward of your shoulders a little bit. And your forearms are on the floor. Your forearms are parallel with one another. Your palms firmly root down. Lift the head up so that you're looking straight forward and you feel your chin is parallel to the floor. With your hands, give a little pull on the mat. Think of pulling the mat back towards your pelvis. As you do that, take your shoulders back, your upper arm bones back. Press the elbows straight into the mat and see if the spine can get a little bit longer through the mid-back, through the upper back, and then the sides of the neck get a bit longer as your shoulder blades drop down. Making sure that the head isn't forward of the rest of the spine. So if you remember from the previous lessons, we can take the head back a little bit as if there's a block directly behind your head, and you want to just gently press back into it slightly. If this feels okay from here, you can start to lift the chin ever so slightly, beginning to look a little bit more upward with your vision. And just moving the head back in that way, whatever amount feels useful to you. Remember, there's not larger gain in a more forceful stretch. You might even let your mouth open slightly here. Great. And slowly lower that down. Slide your hands back. Push yourself back to your hands and your knees. And then transition to sit. You can sit cross-legged with a blanket underneath the pelvis, or you could sit in a chair if cross-legged's not comfortable for you, or any other seated position. First thing is just to find a neutral spine. If you're rounding in your lower back, can you lift your pelvis up a little bit higher? Gently turn your head to the right, maybe 45 degrees or so. Take your left arm so that the back of your left hand is behind you. It could touch the lower back or your sacrum. And now start to tuck your chin a little bit downward so you're looking towards your right armpit. And bring your right hand behind the back of the head. The finger pads of the hand can walk down the head, maybe to the top of the neck or the base of the skull, and just give a little bit of weight, of pressure on the head. Remember that there's not larger gain in a more forceful stretch. And you can move the head just a little bit, almost thinking of your nose as an antenna that's searching, that's seeking for the stretch. And once you've found it, you can pause there. Staying with the alignment through the rest of the spine, so there's a gentle lift through the spine, a lift through the chest. And then release your right hand from behind the head. Keep your head turned to the right, but now lift your chin and begin to look upward. And when I do this, I play a little bit. You can take the bottom set of teeth, the jaw, shift it forward, and then bring it up like you have an underbite. And you're trying to lift the jaw towards the ceiling. And again, play with that, feeling this fascial connection from your jaw into your neck and the front of the throat. Good. Gently let that release. Bring your left arm back to a neutral place. Bring your head back to neutral. Sense your breath. Turn your head to the left slightly, maybe 45 degrees or so. Take your right arm behind you. The back of the right hand can touch your lower back. And this is just to help keep the right shoulder heavy and grounded so the right shoulder doesn't slide up towards your ear. And then tuck your chin a little bit. Look downward towards your left armpit. And you can bring the left hand behind the head. The finger pads can walk down the head any amount, and you're giving a little bit of pressure of weight to bring the chin even closer. So we can certainly file this under stretching, and there really isn't a magic secret for our neck. It's important to take time with all of these approaches. And again, to not be too forceful with the stretch. So maybe you feel the top layers of the skin stretching, maybe the fascial layer, and then by doing some different turning of the head, you can let your nose move around and look for the stretch. You may get into some deeper layers of muscle. Good. Release your left hand from behind the head. Keep the head turned to the left and lift the head now, lifting your chin, taking your vision slightly upward. And just seeing what direction you like to go with your neck. Maybe you do that action with your jaw, taking your lower teeth, which is connected to the jawbone, forward and up. Making some small shifts to see what angle feels meaningful for you and your unique neck tension. Good. And gently let that release. Bring the head to the middle. Release your right hand from behind the back. So the last thing we're going to do here, you'll take your blanket out from underneath your seat and roll it up so that it's in a cylinder. And this can be as big or as small as you want it to be. It will be placed behind the upper back. So we'll be in a slight back bend with the head on the floor and the cylindrical blanket roll behind your chest. And what this will do is it will create a sense of length through the front of the neck. It may not feel like a deep stretch, but it's going to connect the torso into the neck work that we did. So when you're ready, you can lay that blanket down. The cylindrical blanket roll can be parallel with the short end of your mat. Sit in front of the blanket roll and then lie back so that the blanket roll is behind your chest. Not right underneath the ball and socket shoulder joint, a little bit lower on your back than that, but not too much. And it should be just high enough that the back of your head can meet the floor. And it doesn't feel like a big strain for the back of the neck. There's not a big curve, a very sharp turn in the back of the neck. And if you want to, you can bring your hands behind the back of the neck and just give a little traction, invite some length there, and then bring the back of the head back to the floor. The arms can come out to an easy cactus shape with the palms facing up, the elbows dropping towards the floor, the backs of the hands dropping towards the floor. And keep your knees bent and your feet standing. Listening for the movement of your breath, noticing where you're sensing the breath move your torso, if it's in the ribs or the upper chest behind your collarbones. Is it possible to feel some movement down in the lower belly? And this should be comfortable enough that you can breathe here. You can breathe here very comfortably. If this is not true for you, please make the blanket roll much smaller. Remember that the props are adaptable. And with the knees bent and the feet standing about hips distance, and the head is just passive, the weight of the head's dropping. There's awareness to the sides of the neck, the front of the throat, and your breath. Just take a very simple rock of your knees side to side. It doesn't have to be far. Your knees don't have to go anywhere near the floor, but just do an easy tilting of your knees to one side and the other. And allow the rest of yourself to respond to this. See if your head even responds in some way. Is there any response or movement through your neck, through your head, with an easy jaw, an easy expression of the face? And then just see what it's like to turn your head away from the direction that the knees are tilting. So if the knees tilt a little to the left, you turn the head slightly to the right. This can be a very small amount. And as the knees tilt to the right, you let the head turn a little to the left. So when your knees come back through center, your nose also comes right through center. And just see how easy, how soft, how gentle this can be. Just as a way to connect all this neck work that we did to the rest of yourself. And seeing if you can have this felt sense of interconnectedness, the way that we are one system, not a collection of parts, that our head is more than just connected to our neck, and that our torso, our spine, our pelvis, even our feet can support the neck and all of the work it does to move our head around. So take a little bit more time with this if you'd like. When you're ready, you can gently roll to your side, move the blanket aside, pause for a few breaths on your side, or take a few moments in Shavasana on your own. And just a reminder to respect the neck, practicing respect for your own comfort, for your experience. And if you feel like this class was helpful, and you may know tomorrow or the next day, if that's true for you, then remember it, mark it, and come back to it a few times. And definitely check out the awareness and strength neck care episodes. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you find your favorite neck class and repeat those a few times, and hopefully they will give you some neck relief. Are you enjoying this podcast? I've chosen to offer these audio recordings freely for over 15 years. I do this because research shows yoga, yoga nidra, and Feldenkrais to be valuable practices, those which I would like to share widely. Dana, the Buddhist practice of generosity, has always been a pillar of my business. And more generally, Dana is the inclination to give without expecting any form of repayment. It does, however, take a fair amount of time, effort, and cost to maintain and keep the podcasts available. If you feel you've benefited from what you've learned from these classes, then please do consider making a contribution towards the maintenance and upkeep of the classes. It will help ensure that I can continue to offer the podcast classes freely and keep generating new material. Give what you can, give what feels good. If it's too little, it won't feel good. If it's too much, it won't feel good. Links to support the show monetarily can be found in the show notes. And other ways to give include sharing the podcast with others, leaving a 5-star rating and review, or just sending me an email with how the classes have affected you. Thanks so much.